Hey, all right, everybody. Now today I'm going to be doing brakes, the front brake pads on my brother's car. He's about to turn up in a minute, and it's a Kia RIO, I think. I'm not quite sure the engine size. When he turns up, I'll have a look in a minute. But he's on his way. He should have been here at 10 o'clock. I think I'm looking for a watch then, and there's no one on my arm. But I think it's about 10 o'clock now. He usually turns up a little bit late, so he should be here soon. And we'll have a look at the brakes and try and do a little tutorial on how to change the front brake pads. Right, okay then, he's turned up, so let's go and have a look at exactly what car it is. It's a 1.2 Kia RIO, and I'll just turn the camera around, and this is the car. And we're going to start off with the brakes, but they obviously use an axle stand at all times when you're jacking the car up, because you don't want the car to fall on you. I'm going to put a jack under there and an axle stand, take the wheel off, and then I'll get back to you and we'll show you how to take the brakes off. Okay then, we're going to undo this wheel by here. Luckily, I've got this DeWalt, so it makes my life a little bit easier. I need the locking wheel nut. Let's get that there. Always go for the locking wheel nut first. You don't want to leave the locking wheel nut to last. Always do the locking wheel nut first. That's the way I do it anyway. And because if you take off the other wheel nuts, there'll be a lot of pressure left on the locking wheel nut. So we'll just take these off like that. And then I got the axle stand ready, so nobody panic. Let's get this up in the air, and we'll see what the brakes are like. Because the car did fail the MOT on the brake pads, and they were down less than 1.5 mil, I think it is. But the garage wanted £100, I think it was, or over £100, just to change brake pads. That's mental. The brake pads themselves cost £25. So it's a £75 saving. Anyway, because this wheel has been on for such a long time, I'm going to have to give it a bit of a kick to get it off. So I'm going to get my boot onto it. And sometimes they don't want to come off. There we are. So the old boot technique gets it off. And I'm going to put this wheel under the car sill. So I got the wheel under the car. I got the jack by here I should say, a bit common, and I said here. And I'll jack it up and I'll try and put this under here somewhere, like that. It's hard to get in because there's no place under this car for some reason. Very good places to put an axle stand. There's no like chassis leg showing. So anyway, I'll jack this up by here, like that. We'll pop that under there, like that. That should be okay. Then we'll get on with the brakes. I'll bring the camera in a bit closer. Right, okay, the actual bolts to take off the caliper are 14 mil, okay? They're 14 mil. Now, to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to put that spanner on there like that, so it gives you a little bit more leverage. So when I go to undo it, but it won't be that way. It'll be that way because I'm going down. So I'll put that on there. I can push like that, and then there's another nut below that there, which is a 17 mil, and sometimes they turn. So sometimes you've got to hold them. But if the nut is free enough, the bolt, sorry, it'll come off quite easily without using that bit. So let's take these off here. Let's do the other one. Down the bottom there, don't know if you can see that. I'll tell you what I'll actually do. I'm going to turn the steering wheel towards me, and then access to these nuts will be a lot easier, and you'll be able to see it as well. There we go. Now, because the steering wheel is turned towards me, I can see the bottom bolt much easier. So I'll put that on there. I'll put my other spanner on there like that. I'll just give it a little bit of a push, and you can see it comes undone easy. I'll take the bottom bolt out first, like that, and then we'll go for the top bolt then. Now, once you've got these bolts out, you need to get get yourself a big screwdriver like this, because you're going to have to lever this out, okay? So you're going to gently tease this out here like this. Go bottom, top, until it comes out. Now don't let this caliper drop on the floor, because this hose, rubber hose here, you don't want to put any pressure on this rubber hose, okay? So here we go. Keep going back and forth like that. It'll take a while because the pads have gone so low, it's stuck on there quite tight. I'll try and pop it in by here now and see if I can wiggle it off there, but it's not coming off that easy. It doesn't really want to come off, does it? But we'll try this way like that. There we go. I don't know if you can see there, the piston is quite far out, okay? And the pads are very, very thin. So I'm going to put this up by here, like that. It's quite safe by there. You can hang it up, but you can see there's no pressure on that hose at all now, okay? So right, we've got the brake pads by here, but first of all, make sure these sliding pins here are free. If they feel tight at all, you know, if there's any resistance, make sure to take them out. If you pull them out quite far, this rubber will come with it, and you can rub the old grease off and re-grease them, okay? Do not use copper grease on these. Use the appropriate grease, okay? So these are nice and free, so we'll leave that bit there. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the outer pad out, and I'm going to show you, when you take the outer pad out, you can push the piston back in. I'll show you in a minute, okay? But we'll take off these little pins first here, like that. And the new pads don't have little holes for these pins, so these pins will not be going back on, so you can chuck them away. Okay, right then, let's take the outer pad out. I'll try and lever it out from here. Maybe I can, there we go, if I go in there like that. Give it a little wiggle from the top, like that. Little wiggle by there. They're in a bit tight because they've been in there for a while, but we'll push that out there. And also, you've got to watch these little carrier plates here. You can see when I took that out, that bent up, so you're going to have to straighten that back after. I'll show you when I get to that point. Now I'm going to put this back on here, like that, with the one pad out on the one side. I've left the pad closest to the piston, okay? So let's see if we can get that back in there, like that, and then this one in here, like so. And then I'm going to push the piston right the way over there. Now that should give me enough room to put my screwdriver in there between the old pad and the piston. But before I do that, I'm going to pop up and undo the brake reservoir. Right, okay, I'm going to undo the brake reservoir. I'm just going to take the lid off, like so. Just pop it off like that, just in case. Don't want any pressure when I'm pushing back on the piston. And just in case somebody's filled up this reservoir when the pads were low, you might get brake fluid coming up and trying to come out to the top. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as I push the piston back in. So let's get back down and push the piston back in. Right, okay, so I've taken the lid off the brake fluid reservoir. I'm going to pop the screwdriver in there. Now you can buy an actual brake caliper set that pushes it back in. I have got one of them, but not everybody has got one of them. So I'm going to use this to show you that there is other ways of doing it. So I'm just going to push against it like that, and you should see the screwdriver moving in and the piston is going back in. If you do try and push it back in and it doesn't move, that means the piston is seized. But this one's okay, it's going back in slowly. I'm going to take my time until the piston's all the way back in. And I'm going to turn it this way a little bit, just to grab the other side of the piston there and push it back in a little bit further until that piston is all the way home. Right, so that piston's in far enough now. So I'm going to take these carrier bolts back off, not the carrier, the caliper bolts back off. We'll pop that back up on there, like that, and we can take this little shield off there like that, and then we'll try and get this brake pad out of there like that. So let's try and get that out of there. Now we're left with this here, like a little sort of metal shim thing, and you've got to clean them up. Now you've got to be careful. I don't know if you can see at the end of here, by there, they tend to bend up. I'll show you the other one is bent up, so I'll put that one by there. I'll show you this one. I don't know if you can see when I've taken the caliper out, that is bent up, so I'm going to flatten that back around like that, and this side as well is the same, so I'll flatten that one back around as well. And these are, because the car's not too old, these are pretty clean. I'm going to give this a little bit of a clean up, with a little brush. I'll try and do it away from it. I don't want to breathe any of the dust in. Just giving a little bit of a clean up. Obviously the dirtier they are, the more cleaning you've got to do, okay? But we'll clean it up. We'll give a little brush out by there as well. Like I said, these calipers, these ones are not too bad. But if you get corrosion in there and there, that's going to make the space where the pad goes in smaller, so the pad will be tighter. So make sure that there's no debris or dust or anything in these spaces. And we'll clean that again as well there, make sure everything's out of it, and we can pop them back in like so. Put them back on there. Now let me just get a rag and clean my hands off a bit before I touch the pads. Now with the pads, people like to put a little bit of copper grease on the back of you, but do not put copper grease on these ends here, because copper grease over time can come a little bit sticky, and these pads are supposed to slide in and out like so, okay? So what I use is, I use Silcoling Pro, and that's a synthetic racing grease, high temperature, and I just put a little bit of, let me just put just a dab of copper grease on there like that, okay? Just a little bit, just there, where the surfaces touch. And let me obviously wipe the brush off. And I'll get a little dab of that red racing grease on either end there. Now, I'll show you in a minute. The pad that came out of this side here has got this here is what's called it'll make a squeaky noise. That's the best way to describe it. And it's a pad sense wearers type thing. And when it gets to, you can see it's almost ready to touch see the pad's gone low. When the pad gets a little bit lower, that there then will scratch on the disc and make a screeching noise, so you know to change your pads before it gets low. That goes on that side there at the top, I think it is, okay? So we'll pop this one in first. Make sure I get grease off my hands. You don't want to put any grease on the face of the pad. And I'm going to go in at a slight angle, like that, and like that, and then it's a bit slippy, but I'm going to try and push that in here, and then like that, and then that's in. So that one's in, and I'll do the same on the other side now. Get the other pad, and a little bit of red grease on top of there like that, a little bit of red grease there, and then just a tiny smidge of thing on there. And I'll pop that back on there like that, because that was on there, so that might, you know, should be on there, I assume. There's little holes in the back of there as well to line up with it, so okay. And then there's a little bit of copper grease where the piston sits onto it, and then we'll do the same thing here. We'll angle it and dangle it like that in there, and hopefully it's a bit awkward, but there we are, that one's in as well. Okay, now they're both in, we should be able to put this piston at the caliper back on like so. You've got to push these sliding things inwards to get it back on like that, and let's put this one in. You've got to find try and line it up properly if I can get it in. It's got to come a bit higher, I think. Let's see if I can get that in there. There we go, that one's in there, and then that one should go in there, like so. Is it going in? Yeah, now it's going in. Just tighten these up with a 14mm. And you've got to be careful that this doesn't turn like I said last time. So we can tighten that with my hand. And then do that there. Do that there. I'll put my little spanner on there just to give it a little bit more of a eek, like that. And this one, a little oof, like that. And there we go. Now it's back in. The first thing I got to do is I got to pump the brakes to make sure that the piston comes back out, because you don't want to drive off first of all without pumping the brakes. Right, okay, I'm just going to pump the brakes by here. You'll find that when you press it the first time, the brake goes all the way down, and then you pump it like that, and the piston should come out and everything should be okay. So make sure you pump the brakes first, and also check your brake fluid. I can see it's gone back up to the maximum mark now. I'll just tighten this back up. I'll try and put that back on there, like that. There we are, that's all nice and tight. And I'll put the wheel back on, and we should be in business. Hey, all right then. So there you go. The pads are done on the car now. They're in there, greased up, and they're ready to go. And like I said, make sure you press the brake pedal down, pump the brakes a few times, because if you pull off without doing that, the brakes won't work the first time. You have to pump them. So a safety aspect is pump the brakes before you go. And the other thing I'd like to say is that some people might say you should change the discs with the pads. For this particular video, I was just showing how to do the pads. If this was my car or whatever, I might have changed the discs, but for this particular video, I just did the pads. But anyway, I hope this video helped anybody who wants to change their brake pads themselves, because it can be quite expensive if you go to a garage. So if you liked this video, go on, give it a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi!